Well, I'll start by asking, the two writers, Chris Roache and John Richardson, had never had a script produced before this project, and I was wondering what enticed you to take a punt on them?
No, I think that, they came out with a great idea and a great concept, and to me, I think that every director that loves thrillers and mysteries at some point in their career need to do a movie that takes place in only one location. It's an incredible challenge, and I saw the opportunity and the world that they created and the characters that they created. I thought that I could really do something outstanding, But it was so challenging that it excited me.
Because on the surface, it's quite easy to assume that a film that takes place in one sort of set place would be easier to direct. But I imagine it must have had a lot more of its own challenges.
It's technically very difficult. It's difficult in all levels. It has its advantages. The advantages being that you really create a family with the crew and the cast because you're there every day. But it really, have you ever boarded a plane and you see how much of a pain in the ass boarding a plane is? Well, it's boarding a plane constantly. That's really what it is. It's just like a lot of people sitting down and people crazy in the aisles for about 40 days. So there's a lot of bumping into each other and there's a lot of excuse me and all of that. But eventually, I think that really helps, create an atmosphere for great things to happen in this movie.
The pair of you have worked together on quite a few occasions now. Obviously, the relationship between a director and his producer is very strong. Mm-hmm. I was wondering, very important. I was wondering how vital it is that you two sort of know each other so well and how much that sort of helps along the work.
We've worked together for 10 years now. We did House of Wax in 2004. And look, familiarity just brings ease because, I so trust Juame. It's so hard to build trust in any part of our lives. I just trust him, and I trusted it. If he says something, he needs it. And there's no guile about it. And he puts us in a place when he's finished shooting that we have everything we need. It's there. And if we, need a shot or need a cutaway, it's there. He's got it. He did it, and the key to what makes a great director, it's such a simple word. It's just preparation. That's really it. If a guy is prepared to know and knows what kind of movie he wants to make, that's a great director because he just makes the project, this is not an easy business. I guess what business is easy, but it's really complicated to make a movie. And, you want a partner. And Juame is a great partner. So we will do this as long as we can.
And talking of familiarity, this is not the first time you've worked with Liam Neeson as well.
Right.
He's almost creating a sort of genre of his own, this kind of one-man versus genres. Yeah. He's kind of really embraced that. What do you think it is about him that makes him such a compelling and yet quite fragile sort of lead?
Well, I think he's attracted to the kinds of roles that have a certain vulnerability to them, but that they have to fight. It's like the common man under extraordinary circumstances. He and I both like that setup, which opens the doors for a very strong thrillers, and he's a genius actor in my mind. He can really do anything, and he can carry a movie, and he's very aware of what his audience wants and what the movie needs, and he's able to deliver that. So for me, I would also be working with him forever because he's a great partner.
And he's a fascinating entry point into this story because you don't even trust him as much. Mm-hmm. You can't really trust anyone. And I was wondering, obviously you're both so involved in this project, but when you watch it, are you able to appreciate it as an audience member and get sort of caught up in the sort of tense, quite ambiguous aspects of it?
Yeah. For me, obviously, the process of directing a movie takes place over a year or so, between pre-production, production, and post-production. And one of the key elements that you need as a director is to be able to distance yourself. You are the first audience member that has to watch it over and over again, so you kind of have to force yourself to forget it each time. And I'm not saying, appreciate, you have to be fresh every time, otherwise, you cannot do your job.
Finally, Joel, obviously you've worked on some of the sort of most successful, some of the best action movies of all time. I mean, Die Hard's just the first one that comes to mind. What in your mind makes a really successful action thriller?
I mean, look, there are. I mean, we're at a time now where people seem to be looking for a smarter and more, more thought out action movie that has a story that the audience can get invested in, and I always say I made a lot of stupid action movies, which, by the way, some of them I'm actually proud of, but they're pretty stupid sometimes, and that was at a time when we could do that. And I think that now, look, there are still stupid action movies that come out and do business, big business. But, I think it's our responsibility as filmmakers to engage the audience in something that, takes them on a journey. And, this is literally takes them on a journey. But I mean, puts them in a place where they have to try to, figure out. I mean, we noticed that in Sherlock Holmes, that the audience, we would set up all these things in Sherlock Holmes that we called it packing and unpacking. So we'd pack a scene or a story or something with elements, and then later on we'd show the audience what they didn't see, which was essentially unpacking that. And they loved it. And I think that, there's elements of Sherlock and Liam's character in this movie. I mean, he has to try to figure out what's going on and what's happening, and he doesn't have a lot of information. And at one point he says to Michelle Dockery's character, he says, look, if I was on the ground, I could solve this problem in a minute. But, I'm 40,000 feet in the air. I'm locked into a confined space, and I don't know how to. I got to figure out how to do it. And I think that's good. And I think that I'm proud of how we worked that out.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's much appreciated.
My pleasure.